Hello, 11VQ. 1111. 1111. Are you a person that notices 1111 on the clock? I've noticed 11VQs, notice 1111. And you are a compound VQ. You're actually a 1VQ plus a 1VQ in 1, which makes you kind of like a 2VQ, always by nature. And that's the compound of you. You are extremely strong on the inside, 1 plus 1, but then as soon as it adds up to 2, you get really fragile and slippery and wet. And that is the nature of 11VQ. Interesting stuff. Now, when 11VQ loves you, it's like nothing else. I mean, they're willing to just bring so much to the table. And that's why the maturity mark for 11VQs is your own integrity. You have to be living up to your own sense of your own heart's happiness and in your own sense of perfection before you'll meet the one. If you are not happy, if you're moping around, if you're an 11VQ that's not happy without the one, you won't find the one. That's the way it works. Why? Because when you're an 11, you have to find your one within you first. Your two ones. Your two ones put into one. And it's your responsibility to keep you company with all those things to think about. It's your responsibility to be there with yourself and sit there with yourself with the crazy details you like to dive into when you're an 11VQ. 11VQ wants to get into everything. They're like a monkey, curious monkey, going through a kitchen, hungry. So the 11VQs want to digest, and so you want to make sure that you have digested yourself, you lived up to your 11VQ before you invite yourself into the love business. You have no business in the love business if you don't love yourself. And you should watch the 1VQ video about loving yourself and what that's about, because you're that times 2, which means that you have 2 separate love stories going on inside of you at all times, which is one of the reasons why 11VQs have a hard time being satisfied in love, a huge hard time. In fact, they usually bloom late. They usually don't find love right away because you're looking for 2 love stories, not one. One for each of your crazy personalities. Oh, I know. You know what's interesting? You are often attracted to the 5VQs, just so you know. And that's because 5 is enough for your 2 to have a little bit of a party there. One for each one and a swap out. It's kind of interesting, but consciousness for point of consciousness, that's how it works. So the 11VQs tend to chase after the sick one, the hurt one, the diseased one, the poor me one, the one that no one notices, the one no one cares. That's because you are willing to sacrifice one of your ones to them. And so the 11VQ is often willing to spare a 1 to their lover, which is not integrity and out of integrity. So they tend to chase after the hurt, wounded bird, blah, 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 right? Until you've reached your maturity mark, then I find that the 11VQs actually kind of depends on those 2 ones as far as their personality, but they do super well again, I think, with the 5VQs, like I said, and I've certainly seen the 11VQs go with the 1VQs. I mean, I've seen it all. But I think that they overall chase for flavor after there's integrity, and before integrity, they're chasing after fix it. The 11VQ's focus is perfection and integrity. And the one thing that 11s love to do is make things better. So once you are in a love relationship, 11s can exchange at like fiber optic rates. We're talking about 2 Leo energies, 2 1VQs, like wow, in hyper. So their focus is on exchange on a high band level. Their focus is on running and perfecting and intensifying, and they're looking for once in a lifetime energy. Even though it's an 11 energy, the 11VQs are looking for once in a lifetime, even though it's 2 right there. The emotional personality of an 11VQ is very gentle, actually. That's because you have 2 1VQs right next to each other. So that's like super love with no boundaries and no protection. It is a purity with no protection. So 11VQs tend to be very soft, gentle, pure, loving, sweet. They often come off, though, as a little cold, but actually it's a weird candy shell coating to the like super gooey nugget center, because even though they look that way as a little cold, they're really not. Don't forget, you're a compound when you're 11VQ, so you add up to a 2VQ once you're firing on both signals. And that's a whole nother personality, a whole nother dynamic, a whole nother reflection. You should watch the 2VQ for that. So when it comes to emotional personality, very sensitive. When it comes to defensiveness, I would say that you really get it one of 2 ways. either the 11 VQs are completely detached and don't even talk to you, or the 11 VQs are completely connected. So I would say they're not very defensive, and then once they feel attacked, they could attack or not attack. It really depends on their energy. I would say that when it comes to defensiveness, they're not very defensive, and they need to be. They need to be more protective of themselves. They tend to not, unfortunately, because I think they're looking to multiply that thrill. That 11 wants to become 22, 33, 44. Because you're looking to multiply and gallop in that regard. I don't think 11s always look before they leap, and they often want to mix in, and then they find themselves very mixed in because they've got two fingers in the broth, not one. So their defensiveness, I would say, is not good. The likeliness of a commitment from an 11, a VQ 11, 11 VQ is ridiculously high. And that's because of the 2. When they get emotional, too, then they get lost. At that point, it's not so much that they're committed, it's that that they can get lost, especially if you are behind in your maturity mark and you're not standing in your own integrity. This is the thing. When you're firing on both, you become 2 VQ. And that's the compound energy. You've got really 3 energies to satisfy in yourself before you plug into anyone. And that's almost why, too, you're so magical. Like when you do plug into someone, you multiply the situation because 3 is a multiplier. So the likeliness to commit is ridiculously high, not because you sat there and decided to commit, although when you do decide to commit, I'd say it's ridiculously committed. But I say that you find you get lost and committed without asking. In bed. Okay, so the 11 VQs in bed. Well, 11 VQs in bed are known to be incredibly aggressive. And I think it's because of the 2 1s in bed. If you're going to have sex with an 11 VQ or a 10 VQ, you're basically in menage a trois to begin with. They've got 2 personalities that they have to satisfy. You have 2 personalities you have to satisfy. And so it ends up becoming a very aggressive kind of meat-eating event, I think, for the 11 VQs. The interesting thing about the 11 VQs is they almost like aggression and masculinity and almost not pain, but to know they're alive as part of the 11 VQ experience, I think, is to know they're alive, to feel the flesh of it. And so a little fluid, a little mess, it's okay. It's almost like, I always say this, people want to be the opposite in bed than what they are in life. So 11 VQs are so in line, all the time in life that in bed they're like, ugh, screw it, right? So looking at the 11s and the other places, interesting thing about the 11s. So first of all, you could have an 11 in your mastery number. And if mastery is in your 11 number, which means you'd have an 11 degree of something, this would show that you were emulating like an 11. And so, basically there's only 2 levels of the 11s, and that is the first and the second, right? So energetically, the other 11, which is very interesting, is the 29th degree. So if you're a 29 degree or you're an 11 degree, these are the only 2 ways that you can actually get the compounds of the 11s and the secondary quotients to have an 11 quotient. Now, when you have an 11 quotient, no matter what numbers before, you are a natural born healer, because one of the magical powers of the 11s is that they heal others. They can lend that 1 to someone else to get them back on their feet. Of course, the 11 VQs can get lost forever in that sort of situation, and often do. But being an 11 does mean that you have that 11 VQ power, superpower of healing, even if you may not be an 11 VQ yourself. So if you have like 5, if you're a 5 VQ 11, for instance, you would be someone that heals the mind, actually. So the other option is the 29th degree that makes the 11, and that 29th degree is a different type of master, and the 29th is a grand master degree. So no matter what you are, no matter what your VQ is in the front, if you have 29 in the end, you are a Grand Master. This is a 29 that adds to 11. This is how you make it. And of course, that 11 adds to a 2. So we're talking about 3 levels of energy at 29, 2 and 9, and then that makes 11, and then 11 makes the 2. And this is literally the edge of God energy. In this equation of 29, if you're one of those, you basically have to go with how you feel, and when it feels right, you act on it. And so this is a 20th degree are people that end up coming out different themselves, and the people who went into that energy with them come out different too. If a 20th degree person loves you, you're in for a passionate ride, and an incredibly passionate ride. So for the 11s, if you are a subscriber to gavenus.com and I watch over you with text messages, for the 11 BQs, my biggest focus is standing in that own integrity and helping you identify and find outlets for all that love you have to give. You have to give and receive all that love you have to give first and stand in that 11 integrity. So in the service, we focus on integrity. I focus a lot on helping you find in your daily life to find the places of where you can love yourself and be loved and feel fulfilled 100% before you enter. Because once the 11 BQs do enter, it's a whole nother coaching game, let me tell you. All right, thanks for clicking.
So